That's very good. Very
There we
good
go.
stuff. Thing number four, gold hits an all-time high.
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm excited about this too. Deep
Right.
Knowledge Investing has owned gold since 2020.
Yes, they have.
That has worked out really well, right? We've had huge profits in the name. We have gold hitting an all-time high. That's fantastic. That again, same thing, right? Gold owners and gold buyers are seeing, wait a minute, the US government is issuing another 3-4 trillion dollars of on-balance sheet debt a year. And as they do that, they're debasing and diluting the existing value of the dollar. The purchasing power is falling. People are realizing that and realizing that gold has been considered the safe haven for thousands of years. There's a reason for it, right? And gold is actually, once we get to the halving, the Bitcoin halving next month, gold will then become, I think, the second hardest form of money, meaning the stock to flow ratio will be the second best after Bitcoin once Bitcoin gets through the halving. So I think all of that is fantastic, and we're certainly enjoying the run up, and I think we understand the reasons. As central banks just issue more and more fiat currency, there's more room for gold to run.
With gold being hedge against inflation, we talk about that a lot of time. Existing listeners, I'm sure, or hopefully, are in tune. What about new listeners, Gary? Your preferred vehicle investment for gold? How do you prefer to put your money into gold?
So I think that's a really challenging question, Rob, and it's a smart one. Gold is particularly challenging because there are lots of ways to hold it, and there is no perfect way, right? In an ideal world, you own physical gold in your possession, but the problem with that is you run the risk of getting robbed, right? If you have tons of gold in the house, that may not go well if you get robbed. There are people who bury it in the backyard. Yeah, all right, fine, but also remember in a everything hits the fan scenario, very hard to travel with gold, right? You can own electronic gold. GLD is one option. There are a couple of ETFs that track the price of gold. The issue with that is that money it's in the system. It's electronic money, and
Mhm.
it's supposedly backed by metal, but who in the world knows? You put it in a safe deposit box, you run the risk that your bank gets raided. That happened. There was a bank in California where the FBI came in. They opened every safe deposit box despite not having a warrant for all of them, and they confiscated everything over $5,000. So if you were an honest tax-paying citizen who just decided to store a few $1,000s of gold in a safe deposit box, they got it stolen from them and had to sue the FBI. It took years to recover. And there was the risk that the government wouldn't give the money back. So there are, the answer to your question, how do you structure this, really depends. But the thing that I want to emphasize, because I think it's really interesting, I think it's curious and interesting that Bitcoin and gold are both hitting all-time highs
Yeah.
at the same time. And the reason is Bitcoin is traded as a proxy for global liquidity and risk on investing. When everyone's saying, I want more exposure, I want more risk, they're buying Bitcoin. And, we talked about this before. Lynn Alden has done great charts, tying the price of Bitcoin to global liquidity, basically the global version of M2 for the economists listening to this. For everyone else, basically, the more money that governments and central banks and banks are putting into the system, the higher the price of Bitcoin goes. So it's very much a risk on asset. Gold is the opposite. Gold is the gold standard for hedging against inflation, geopolitical chaos, government mismanagement. It's the risk off option. So when you have, Bitcoin hitting all time highs, there are people who are saying, wait a minute, the governments are throwing tons of liquidity in or risk on. But if gold is hitting an all time high with the markets at all time highs, people are saying, wait a minute, right? Stocks are overvalued. I want to pull money out of the system. I want disaster insurance. It's the ultimate risk off behavior. So we're getting these sort of reinforcing and contradictory signals at the same time. I solve that by owning stocks that I really like, hedging out the equity risk, and owning both gold and Bitcoin, which guess what? We're making huge profits in all of these things. So that's working.